Before cribs, baby monitors, hospitals, or even permanent homes, how did a child survive? The answer was not a locked door, it was not a warning label, and it was not one exhausted parent trying to do everything alone. For much of human history, a child's first great safety system was an entire community. Picture a child waking beside a fire thousands of years ago. We cannot reconstruct one universal prehistoric childhood, and different communities lived in very different ways. But evidence from archaeology, human biology, and comparisons with more recent hunter-gatherer societies gives us a revealing picture. A child was rarely surrounded only by two biological parents. There might be older siblings, grandparents, relatives, and other trusted members of the group. They could share food, carry the child, watch them, teach them, and notice when something was wrong. Anthropologists sometimes call this alloparenting, care provided by people other than a child's parents. For humans, this kind of shared care made sense. Human children remain dependent on adults for an unusually long time. They need food, warmth, protection, and years of learning before they can contribute much to their own survival.
But having more caregivers did not mean childhood was free from danger. It meant danger could be faced together. A curious child might crawl toward water, reach for fire, taste an unfamiliar plant, follow animal tracks, or wander farther than expected. Exploration was useful. It was also risky. So protection began with attention. One adult might be preparing food, another might be repairing a tool, an older child might be nearby, someone else might notice the small figure moving toward the edge of camp. But the most important protection was not simply pulling the child away, it was teaching the child what to notice. There were no warning labels in the landscape, no signs explaining which berries were safe, where clean water could be found, or what tracks belonged to a dangerous animal. That knowledge had to be carried inside people. A child watched and experienced adults separate useful plants from harmful ones. They learned where shade lasted longest, which sounds meant danger, and how to move around a fire. They copied, made mistakes, were corrected, and tried again. The environment became a classroom, and every lesson had a practical purpose. Knowing where to find water could prevent thirst.
Recognizing animal tracks could prevent an encounter. Understanding weather could help a group choose when to move. But the most useful teacher in camp could also be one of the most dangerous objects there: fire. A careless hand could be burned. A child could fall too close. Yet controlled fire provided warmth, light, cooked food, and a place where people could gather after sunset. One of the greatest dangers in camp also helped make camp safer. Around the fire, knowledge became social. Children could watch adults prepare food, shape tools, tell stories, and solve problems. They were not only being protected from the world, they were learning how the world worked. And then the group had to move. Many hunter-gatherer communities moved through landscapes as seasons changed or resources became scarce. Mobility could help people find food, water, and safer conditions. But traveling with children required cooperation. Young children could not walk as far or as quickly as adults. Someone had to carry them. Someone else had to carry food, tools, fuel, and belongings. The jury worked because no one person had to carry everything. That is easy to miss when we imagine survival as the achievement of a lone hunter or a heroic parent.
In reality, survival often depended on many ordinary acts performed by many people: carrying, sharing, waiting, teaching, watching, and making room. The community was not just a group of people living nearby, it was a system of shared attention. But this does not mean prehistoric childhood was easy. Before modern medicine, infections, injuries, malnutrition, and complications around birth made childhood far more uncertain than it is for many children today. Ancient caregivers could love a child deeply and still be unable to save them. This is where the archaeological record becomes especially moving, and where we have to be careful. Burials sometimes show that infants and children were deliberately placed in graves, occasionally with objects or careful arrangements. A burial cannot tell us exactly what someone felt, and customs differed between communities. But these graves challenge the idea that high child mortality meant emotional indifference. A short life could still matter enormously. Care can also appear in the evidence of survival. Human remains sometimes preserve injuries or illnesses that people lived through. Survival alone does not prove exactly who provided the care, but severe conditions can suggest that someone offered food, protection, or assistance during recovery.
The message is not that every ancient community treated every child in the same way. The message is that humans have long depended on relationships to survive. And this leads to the most important transformation in the story. The child beside the fire was not meant to remain protected forever. At first, someone carried the child. Then someone watched the child. Then someone taught the child. Eventually, the child began to participate. An older child might gather small materials, carry objects, watch someone younger, practice a skill, or learn how to prepare food. The exact timing varied between societies, but learning often happened through participation. The pattern was simple: watch, copy, practice, help, teach someone else. Protection gradually became education. A shelter could protect a child for one night. Food could protect them from hunger for one day. An adult could pull them away from danger in one moment. But knowledge could protect them for the rest of their life. Knowing where to find water, how to approach fire, which plants to avoid, how to read tracks, where to seek shelter, and how to cooperate with others turned a helpless infant into a capable member of the community. The child did not simply grow up inside the group. The child was gradually prepared to become part of the group's protection. So, return to that fire. There is no locked door nearby, no emergency room waiting over the hill, no modern medicine ready if something goes wrong. But the child is not alone. Someone is tending the fire. Someone knows the landscape. Someone is carrying food. Someone is watching the darkness. Someone remembers which plants are dangerous. And someone is teaching the child what they know. Years later, that child may be the one carrying food, watching the darkness, guiding a younger child, or passing the lesson forward. The first great safety system was not a wall. It was not an army. It was not written law. It was people becoming responsible for one another. And perhaps that is what makes ancient childhood so revealing. Humans could not remove every danger from the world. Instead, they built something more flexible, a network of attention, memory, skill, and care. Before there were schools, hospitals, or instruction manuals, knowledge moved from one person to another. A child watched, someone taught, the child grew, and one day the child helped protect someone else. That may have been humanity's oldest safety system.
And one of its most enduring inventions, not simply surviving together, but teaching the next generation how to do the same.